persuade, another to change. Each of us guards a gate of change that can be opened from the inside. We cannot open the gate of another, either by argument or by emotional appeal. Marilyn Ferguson. I love this quote because it captures something we often forget. We can't force people to change. But, and this is so important, education, awareness, and experience can help someone open that gate from the inside. And that's what I want to do with this channel. Hi everyone, I'm Preenisha and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. I'll be honest, I paused making videos because I lost my vision and purpose. And I know some people will say, like, why are you admitting this on a business channel? It'll make you look weak. But I don't agree. Sharing lessons and setbacks is how we grow together. If I've learned something that saves you time, energy, or pain, then my vulnerability is worth it. When I left the corporate world, I was confident, driven, and performing at a high level. I got promoted quickly. I was implementing well-being initiatives, and I believed in what I was doing. But then, in the early stages of starting my business, I had one meeting that shook me completely. I walked in thinking it was a friendly exchange of ideas to see if there were any synergies, but I walked out feeling like I was young, inexperienced, dumb, and not good enough. One comment stuck with me. So I was explaining about the well-being initiatives I'd implemented in my team. Someone responded saying, "You said your team. Were you the leader?" And I replied, "No." And the person responded, "You clearly don't know anything because you can't say my team as everyone will think you're the leader." In that moment, I forgot everything I knew, everything I'd achieved. I let someone else's perspective crush my confidence. That was my first mistake. I let someone else take my why. Thing is, saying my team is normal. It's normal corporate lingo, and also it says a lot of the team that I was in because I could say mine. I was proud of the team I came from. So now, lesson 1. Your why is your anchor. In the corporate world, your why can get buried under deadlines, politics, and pressure, and different organizational cultures either nurture or suffocate it. In a toxic culture, your why gets dismissed. You're told to just follow orders. That kills innovation. In a transactional culture, your why gets ignored. It's all about KPIs, not meaning. In a thriving culture, your why is encouraged. You're trusted to take ownership and bring ideas forward. When I was at KPMG, I started wellbeing initiatives just by sending out Monday affirmations. 16 people signed up. Within months, the list grew to over 120 people across the department. Why? Because I was connected to my why, helping people feel supported and seen. And then I started hosting podcasts in my team. Our team meeting attendance was quite poor initially, but after I started doing the podcast every 2 weeks or so, everyone would make the effort to attend because they found it fun, engaging, but also brought the team together. I was helping people and making sure that people didn't feel alone. So here's lesson 1. Protect your why. If you lose it, you lose your compass. My second mistake was not standing up for myself. In corporate, I had protocols and structure, but I also had the confidence because I'd been trained. Sure, sometimes I was thrown in the deep end. I remember one deal I worked on, it was a FTSE 250 firm, and we had to carve out the 4 divisions. What I mean about carve out, by the way, is more that this whole firm together, yes, they do this, but they had 4 divisions that were doing things separately to the point that each division could have been sold to another company. I got given the task of doing the due diligence for the whole business, so on a consolidated level. This means I looked at the business saying that this is one whole business and not 4 divisions, if that kind of makes sense. The FD of this firm was really grumpy though. He was quite rude to a lot of the people on our team, and honestly, I was petrified to have meetings because I knew I was going to have to deal with him the most. FYI, I'd just been promoted to assistant manager, so I had no idea what I was doing, and I'd literally never done half the work I did on that project, but hey, it helped me. When we had our first meeting, he refused to answer questions, and I had to stop the meeting, and I told him, "Look, I understand you're on a lot of pressure and you have a lot of work to do, but if you don't answer my questions now, I'm going to send you a long spreadsheet with loads of questions, and we're just going to have to go back and forth because you'll respond and I'll come up with more questions. Answering my questions now, plus my follow-up, saves you the time, so please can we begin?" I was quite firm and assertive, and after that, he stopped being grumpy towards me. Well, at least just it was me. I think the rest of the team still had it quite shit. But I didn't let him get away with it. I needed to get my work done, and I couldn't if he didn't answer those questions, right? I was assertive, he saw it, and he also saw I was trying to help him. And it made a massive difference because it changed our relationship. Like the rest of the seniors on the team, if they knew they had to deal with him, they'd rather, like, if they had to ask him 1 or 2 questions, they'd rather just message me and saying, can you speak to him and ask him about XYZ? So that was really great. But as an entrepreneur, when challenged directly, I froze. I didn't have the communication tools to protect myself. My confidence was obliterated because I was told I was not good enough, so everything I learned had just gone out the window. It's a new world being an entrepreneur, and there are sharks out there, and you sometimes really need to know how to talk or like stand up for yourself, and it's not that easy. These are skills that you have to develop. But here's what I've learned. Communication is leadership's currency. Without it, you can't lead yourself or others. And this is what I had to teach myself over the last few months. So here are a few simple tips that I use for difficult conversations, which you can use. The first one is breathe before you speak. Or even before entering that meeting or whatever conversation you're going to have. I use the 4-second box technique. It's a breathing technique and it's really cool. So what you have to do is, what I do is, I close my eyes. You can keep them open, but I like to close it just because it helps me focus my, mind. So what you do is you close your eyes. You can do it with me whilst you're watching. Close your eyes and you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. So 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to hold for 4 seconds. Then you're going to breathe out for 4 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to hold for 4 seconds. But the reason why I like to close my eyes is I actually like to imagine like the boxes being drawn. So like when I breathe in, like I see a line going this way. Now when I hold, I see a line going this way. When I breathe out, I see a line going this way. And when I breathe in, and I hold, the line completes the box. And I found this over the years, like when I used to focus and center my thoughts and saying, you know what, like focus on what you're saying. So sometimes like if I just want to get my focus back, I sometimes close my eyes and then I'll like picture like numbers if I'm counting. It really centers your thoughts and this really helps. So you can use a 4-box technique when you're entering difficult conversations. But during difficult conversations, breathing is also really important because if someone says something, it gives you time. Like when you take a breath, no one's going to shout at you for breathing. But when you take like a deep breath in, it gives you time to think. But the impact it has on your nervous system is insane because it calms your nervous system down. Your nervous system is a thing that will give you the physical responses and also what's happening in your brain. So what I mean by physical responses, like if you're a sweaty, clammy person, like you can stop. Like you control your heart rate and like calm your body down and tell yourself you're not panicking. So all the physical signs don't show because when you show these physical signs, you kind of lose that confidence and that's what you want to maintain in difficult conversations. But also once your physical body is relaxed, your mind can think clearly and that's what you need to have in difficult conversations. The other benefit of breathing is sometimes like if I know I'm going to get angry during the conversation, the breathing calms me down. So my responses are better than getting angry basically. Number 2 is write down your goals. I always write down my goals and then keep them in front of me. So hopefully these difficult conversations are virtual so you can just have your goal right there. But if it's not virtual and you're in person, keep telling yourself and reminding yourself what the goal of this conversation is. You need to remind yourself because it stops you from getting derailed. When you have to have difficult conversations, sometimes emotions are running high from both parties or one. And let's say if the other person is really not happy with what you've had to say, and if their emotions are running high, some people tend to then bring up other stuff which is not relevant to the whole point that we're trying to discuss right now, and you kind of can go off tangent, and that's not what you want. You don't want to talk about other issues. You want to talk about the main one that you came to discuss. So always remember what your goal is, and your goal can just be like, I just want to be heard. Or you know what, the other day I had to walk into a really difficult conversation and I actually just said, I want out. And I got out of it. I got out of what I wanted to get out of. The other person, I don't think they fully realized that, but they thought that they were the ball was in their court, but actually it was in my court. And so that's really important. Always have a goal. Number 3, respond, don't react. If emotions run high, it's okay to pause and say, let me reflect and get back to you. Or just say, let me have a think. Best thing I've learned recently is having a proactive mindset and not a reactive mindset. Honestly, when I feel like I'm getting angry or whatever, I tell myself, Prina, you're not being proactive. If you stay reactive, shit will happen and not be good. And my mindset instantly shifts. So like the other day, I had a bit of a business disaster. Same thing. I just told myself, be proactive. And like, honestly, it really works. Daniel Goleman's research on emotional intelligence shows that when leaders have strong emotional intelligence capabilities, their teams outperform by 20%. And at the heart of EI, I honestly believe, is communication. So lesson 2 is communicate with clarity and calm. It changes everything. My third mistake, I lost sight of my values. Values aren't just a nice word. Honestly, I really thought they were, but now I've learned they're actually your compass. They guide you, how you show up, how you lead, how you make decisions, and when you lose them, you drift. Let me share some of my values with you if this is something you want to create for yourself. Honesty. I want to be truthful with myself and others, even when it's uncomfortable. This is where the difficult conversations happen. Also, sometimes being honest with myself. Integrity. Doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. Care and support. Helping others feel seen, heard, and empowered. That's why I started this business. Strength and independence. Being resilient and self-reliant, but also knowing when to lean on others. Growth and learning. Every setback is a lesson. I'm committed to improving every single day. I always tell myself, something goes wrong, okay, what are we learning from this? How are we moving forward? Courage, having the bravery to step outside comfort zones, face tough conversations, and challenge old patterns. Impact, make sure my work leaves people and organizations better than before. Again, this is what my business does. When I let someone else's voice drown mine out, I wasn't living by these values, because I didn't even know what they were at that point. I wasn't being honest with myself. I wasn't standing in my strength or integrity, and the result, I felt lost. And here's the thing, right? Companies face the same challenge. When values are just posters on the wall, culture weakens. But when they're lived every day, they shape decisions, protect people, and drive sustainable success. So let's look at IKEA, for example, because honestly, I love IKEA's supply chain logistics. They work with thousands of suppliers worldwide. But every single supplier must adhere to the IKEA Code of Conduct, which covers labor rights, working conditions, and environmental standards. They don't just set it and forget it. They build long-term partnerships, invest in training, and constantly check compliance. That's values in action. Not a poster on a wall, but embedded in daily decisions. But now let's look at the opposite side. Recently, I saw something about Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's was founded with a strong social mission at its core. Fairness, sustainability, and justice. When Unilever acquired the company, Jerry Greenfield stayed involved to try and protect those values. Recently, though, he's stepped back because, in his words, Unilever was no longer honoring the conditions they'd set out when they sold, especially around embedding the social mission of the company's governance. And that's what happens when values get sidelined. Even founders walk away, but these are the people who know what their values are. Another example of values is when people are looking for jobs. Someone who knows their values is true to them and will turn down a job offer that is even tempting financially because it doesn't fit with their principles or long-term goals. However, someone who hasn't understood what their values are would probably take the job and say, the money was good, so I went for it, but it's really boring and I don't like the team either. This results in someone being either demotivated, grumpy at work, but also feeling lost and maybe even sad in life. When you protect your values, whether as a person or a company, you create trust, clarity, and impact. When you abandon them, you lose people, culture, and credibility. When I lost sight of my own values, I let the external noise cloud my judgment. But reconnecting back with them brought me my vision. I found my goal and purpose again. So lesson 3 is, values aren't fluffy. They drive sustainable results. So why does this matter? Because personal well-being and corporate performance are directly connected. 875,000 UK workers reported work-related stress, depression, or anxiety in 1 year. That is 17.1 million working days lost, costing the UK £57.4 billion. 42% of marriages end in divorce in England and Wales, and many employees are navigating that stress in the peak of their careers. 63% of employees report burnout symptoms, and 70% of managers say poor culture and policies stop them from supporting well-being. When employees lose their why, struggle to communicate, or working in environments that crush their values, productivity drops. Cultures turn toxic and businesses lose money. This isn't a nice to have, it's a business imperative. When I look at well-being, from my experience, it starts with self-awareness. Understanding why you get annoyed or stressed out with tight deadlines, whereas some other people thrive under tight deadlines. Understanding why you might want to scream at someone when something goes wrong, whereas other people can really contain themselves. Also, just a general note, why some people are more empathetic than others. These are the questions I was asking myself when I've been looking at people. When well-being is considered as a business case, businesses will see a direct impact it has on the profit and loss statement. I've been looking into VCs and PE houses because that's my area of expertise, and looking into the deals market. I heard recently that some VCs have started hiring an in-house team to deal with challenges like change management during acquisitions, developing organizational culture, and also helping leadership become better. When I looked for examples and I was trying to find any stats if there's anything out there to see if this works, I actually found a study on the impact of the operating partners on PE-backed companies in France, and it showed that the presence of operating partners correlates with almost double the EBITDA growth. EBITDA, by the way, is like earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So the stats show that the ones with operating partners had EBITDA of 23.2% versus the ones who didn't 11.9%. And sales were 18.3% versus 10.3%. Like, that's insane if you think about those numbers. So if you're comparing companies without that support. By the way, an operating partner is someone who gives you hands-on guidance and strategic oversight to the portfolio companies, so of the PE houses, and they'll train leaders, equip them with the tools that they need. And things like, executive leadership, stress management, all of this is in there. And guess what it's all linked to? Well-being. Daniel Goleman's research also showed that senior executives don't often give self-awareness the credit it deserves when looking for potential leaders. And this is where we need to change it. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel. I want you all to see what I see, and I really hope after all of this you can. My vision is to change the way corporate culture works. Imagine a workplace where leaders protect purpose, communication empowers, not diminishes, values guide every decision. That's not just good for well-being, it's good for performance, retention, and innovation. So whether you're an entrepreneur or a leader or someone navigating your own career, remember, never lose your why. Master your communication and protect your values. Thanks for watching. If this resonated, subscribe to the channel. I've linked my courses on executive communication and burnout prevention below, plus my digital diary, digital well-being journal, in the description below. Together, let's build cultures where people and businesses thrive.